Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the Dark Phoenix of Konoha. Naruto has a big secret, he isn't the dead last he appears to be. But why would he show that before he is ready to deal with the stones the council loves placing in his way? The Sandaime, having opened his eyes, will do his best to make sure that Konoha will retain the will of fire. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 1, Deception. A person clad in dark gray was rushing from one shadow of a house to another shadow. Nobody noticed as the person was fast. Nothing could be noticed that would identify the person. Just as it was the intention of said person. If he would be identified, there would be massive accusations about him doing something illegal, which would only result in him getting dragged to the old man again. No, he had other plans tonight. The empty streets of his home village, he used the term home very loosely, were working well for his plans. Finally he reached his hideout. He pressed a stone in a wall and said wall glided aside soundlessly, the wonders of silencing seals, and let him in. As soon as he had walked inside, the wall slid back, pretending nothing of interest could be found there. The person lit a lantern and now features could be identified. The person was about 1.50 meters in height, slim, male and wearing dark gray pants that were taped with black bandages at the ankles and a long-sleeved gray shirt that was kept in place with gray arm guards. He wore black gloves with dull metal plates on the back. His head was hidden by a hood and a mask that only left his eyes uncovered. Now he pulled off the mask from his lower face and the hood down. Spiky yellow hair was revealed, as were 3 whisker-like birthmarks on the boy's cheeks. He walked down the stairs behind the disguised door and reached a room after 5 minutes of walking down. He lit the lights and now the whole room was visible. The room was massive. It was rectangular and divided in 6 parts by shoulder-high walls. Only one part was closed up completely, the one on the far left. 4 parts were about the same size and 2 were double their size. He walked over to a wall in one of the smaller parts and took 3 sealing scrolls out of his pouch on his belt. He unrolled one scroll that was labeled with weapons and began unsealing the contents. Several shuriken and kunai, 1 short sword, 2 katanas, 4 kodakais, a chain sickle, a container with senbons, 2 windmill shuriken and 4 daggers were taken out of the sealing scroll and placed, sorted by kinds, in a shelf where other weapons were stored. The bigger weapons like the swords in various sizes went on the wall next to the shelf. Then the boy walked to another shelf in the neighboring part, which was loaded with scrolls of different kinds. The single shelves were labeled with the category of the information in the scrolls. One shelf had a sign for water, 1 for wind, 1 for fire, 1 for earth and 1 for lightning. Then there were non-elemental, taijutsu, kenjutsu, fuinjutsu, clan techniques, politics and noble families, geography, survival, and strategy. He again unsealed the contents of the second scroll and sorted the scrolls he took out into the respective categories. He would need to look them over later, but now he had other things to do. The last scroll he took out revealed to hold bags that jingled when they were moved. There were coins in them. Other bags rustled, there were bills in them. He stored the money in the bags in a safe next to the shelf with the scrolls. A good haul tonight, the boy said to himself. I really like Chunin exams. I always get many new supplies that way. He went to the part that was on the farthest right side of the room. There was a small bathroom with a shower, a sink, a toilet, and a bathtub in the back part and a kitchen in the front part. He turned the shower on and while he waited for the water to get warm he undressed. He tested the water and then stepped under the shower. He enjoyed the warm water for some time before he took the shower foam and cleaned his body. When he had washed it off, he shampooed his hair. Once he was clean, he turned off the water, walked out of the shower and took a towel from a stand. He dried his body and his hair before putting on night clothes. The part opposite the bathroom, the one completely separate from the rest of the room, was a bedroom with furniture he had made himself. He had a wardrobe, a bed, a night table and chest of drawers. The carpet, the blanket, the pillows and the mattress he had bought under a transformation jutsu. Nobody, not even the old man Hokage, knew about this hideout. While it was underground and therefore no natural light got inside, it was safe. A fact no other place in the whole village could claim to be for the boy. The least of all his official residents. Well, if anybody would look for him they would only find a shadow clone of his lying in the bed, pretending to be him. It was a really big stroke of luck that he had the habit of observing the true genin tests of the Jonin senseis. 3 years ago, when he had been 9, he had watched a strange Jonin with spiky silver hair and a face mask like his, who only had one eye unveiled of his whole face, using the jutsu. First he had thought it was the normal clone the academy taught, but it was different as the clone could attack like the original. He had seen the hand seal the Jonin used and then begun training the jutsu. Shadow clone jutsu had become his favorite jutsu. First, he could do much more with the support of shadow clones. Second, he had found out after 2 weeks after finally managing to do the jutsu, that whenever one of his clones dispelled, he and the other clones got the memories of the dispelled clone. It had helped him in his training immensely. The village was completely against him, that much he knew since he was a little boy. There were perhaps a handful of people that didn't hate him outright. He didn't know how often he had been in the hospital because of their hatred. But he had found ways to avoid it. He knew the only way to not be beaten up anymore was getting stronger than the ones who beat him. He didn't care if he hurt them anymore. Those who attacked him were going to pay. But getting strong didn't happen overnight, and he also needed to cover all his bases to not be executed on orders of the council, his biggest enemies in the village. He had found out the reason for their hatred 5 years ago. He had become smarter after stealing scrolls and books from old, unused storages in the academy. In his mind it wasn't wrong what he did, it was simply to survive in this screwed up village. While the Hokage was one of the few that didn't hate him and protected him, otherwise he was sure he would already be dead, he was too old and tired to do his job properly. He, Naruto Uzumaki, or rather Namikaze, even if nobody knew he had figured that out, was the container of the Kyuubi, the 9-tailed fox that had attacked the village on the day he had been born. And for some reason the whole village had been informed about that fact and hated him for the connection with the fox. As if he had chosen to become the container of that demon. But no, they saw him as the fox. Stupid bastards. Even he with his self-taught knowledge in sealing knew that he and the fox were 2 separate entities. One day when he had been cleaning the storage rooms in the Hokage Tower after a prank, his only real way to show his frustration with the village, he had found a box with the kanji for 4th on it. He had freed the box of dust when a badly placed Nodoki fell from an upper shelf and nicked his arm. Some of the blood from the wound dropped on the seal that kept the box closed, and the seal opened much to Naruto's surprise. He quickly bandaged the wound on his arm with the already ruined sleeve of his jacket and then opened the box. He found a few personal things the yondaime had left, a marriage certificate and his own birth certificate which stated that his parents were Minato Namikaze and Kushina Namikaze ne Uzumaki. He had been shocked to find that out, but knew he only would have this one chance to see if his father and mother had left him something. For some reason the Hokage had lied to him that he didn't know who his parents were. He was hurt that the old man had lied to him and decided to not tell him that he knew now. In the box were some documents for bank accounts. He saw that he should have inherited quite a fortune, the deed to a bit of land on the outskirts of Konoha. He would check the place out later, he decided, and some pictures of his parents, those he took and hid them on his body. He guessed that if there was still a house left much would be kept there. Checking out the place had been a really good idea. He found a small house, only the ground floor, first floor, and a basement, but it was obvious that the one responsible for the interior had chosen it with love to detail. Finding the house had been difficult as it had been hidden with seals again, no wonder with his dad's reputation as a genius, but after 4 hours of searching he had found the seal that let him inside. He found a small shelf of jutsus, many notes on sealing with the Uzumaki spiral on them, a book about the Uzumaki clan of Whirlpool Country and one about the Namikaze clan of Fire Country. By now he had read the 2 books and knew his clan's histories. It made him all the more resentful towards Konoha's general population. He should have been treated like royalty. Even if he would have been happy enough to be treated like everybody else. From the book of the Namikaze clan he found out that the daughter of the Nidaime Hokage had married the heir of the Namikaze clan, which made his father the grandson of the Nidaime and himself his great-grandson. The Shodai was his great-granduncle. The only Hokage he wasn't related with was the Sandaime, and even the old man treated him like a second grandson. He was also related to the Shodai's wife, Mito, who had been born an Uzumaki and married Hashirama Senju in a political marriage to strengthen the bonds between Konoha and Uzushio more than the distant relationship between the Senju and the Uzumaki already did. Mito Uzumaki had been his mother's grand-aunt. He also had found both his parents' journals, which informed him that since Mito, it had always been an Uzumaki who contained the Kyubi. His mother had written how she had come to Konoha to take over for the old Mito. How she hadn't been ostracized for the fox as nobody but the Sandaime and the highest advisors knew of it. Why the hell hadn't they done the same for him? Why let the villagers know that he was a Jinchuriki? It made no sense. He lifted the blanket of his bed and climbed into the bed. He lay down after setting the alarm clock. He looked at the picture of his parents on the nightstand and smiled. He would have to be at the academy the next morning and he didn't want to get too much unwanted attention. While he maintained the image of an idiot, it was simply safer to let the villagers think he wasn't a threat until he was ready to just give them hell. He didn't skip classes unless he was thrown out. It had been the constant attempts on sabotage that had him develop his resentments against the village. If he could only get away, but he knew that wouldn't be allowed and he couldn't escape the Umbu. No, he first needed to get to that level. Let them all underestimate him. As long as the Hokage kept the worst attacks at bay, he would persevere. There hadn't been any serious attacks in 5 years. Logical as the most vicious attackers had always been the Uchiha. But with them controlling the military police there had been nothing done against them. Officially, if one of the attackers had been caught they had been disciplined, but unofficially he knew that they got away with it. He had been one of the few people to be happy about the Uchiha massacre. In his opinion Itachi Uchiha had done a good deed killing them all. And he himself had also profited. He had already found his current hideout 3 weeks prior to the Uchiha massacre. It had been a big coincidence. He had run from another mob of drunken villagers when he had been looking for a hiding place in the narrow alley. He had leaned against the stone that activated the mechanism. With the stone being really low in the wall it was no wonder that the place hadn't been found already, and had fallen back into the dark corridor, only for the wall to slide back. At first he had panicked in the dark, then he had calmed down and lit a match to see where he was. The lantern had been there already and he had lit it to explore the place. The whole underground room had been packed with some creepy things. He had thrown most of them out after getting over his queasy stomach, and many useful things. Some of the things were horrible. Like body parts in glasses with some fluid to preserve them. Thankfully those had been really few. Perhaps 10 or so. The other things were much more useful to him. A shelf with some jutsu scrolls, some weapons, medical equipment, medical scrolls, information on poisons and the said poisons in bottles, and some machines he was pretty sure were used for torturing people. The machines were now stored in the second part of the room on the left side. He stored all the things he didn't really need there, but didn't want to throw away. Who knew when something could be useful, even if he didn't know if he would ever go into TNI. The night after the Uchiha massacre he had sneaked into the empty compound and had looked for any leftover scrolls or weapons he could add to his possessions in the secret room. He had found quite a lot of them, even if it could be nowhere near the whole amount of jutsus that the Uchiha had possessed. He had a big sack with him and put them all inside. There was no way he would leave that kind of knowledge behind for the bastard village to profit from when the Uchihas in his opinion had to make up a lot to him. Thankfully no guards were placed around the compound so it was easy to sneak in there. They were all busy with hunting the culprit. In that night he had got 27 scrolls with jutsus of all kinds. Most were fire jutsus. He didn't want to risk getting caught by accident and returned to his hideout. Over the coming weeks he had gone to the Uchiha compound twice more, but the cleaning crews had obviously already collected the remaining good things. Well, he had got a good haul himself and now had a lot of jutsus he could learn. With the scrolls of the hideout, his stolen scrolls and books from the academy and the Uchiha scrolls he learned a lot about taijutsu. The medical scrolls came in very handy as they explained where a body was most vulnerable. Genjutsu, he sucked in that area in the beginning, and ninjutsu. He soon realized that his main problem was chakra control. He had so much chakra and so little control that it messed with his jutsus at the academy. Thankfully there was a scroll that described all known chakra control exercises with the medical scrolls. He was really grateful to have found this place. While the previous owner had to be a creep, he obviously had also been a good shinobi. Since then Naruto had trained in the secret room, learned how to prevent the villagers overcharging him, mainly by hunting in the woods for meat and fish, collecting edible plants and growing some vegetables on a small field he had started 4 miles away from the village in a part of the woods no normal ninja came usually along. The civilians didn't leave the main roads if they traveled outside of Konoha so his hidden field was safe. He worked out in peace. He knew the exercises by spying on genin teams which were trained by their jonin senseis, trained his weapon techniques as well as it was possible without a training partner, worked through the chakra control exercises and started on low-level ninjutsu. It was morning and Naruto got ready for the next day of torture. He hated having to pretend being an idiot. He should be praised as a genius. He knew he could beat all the chunin in the village by now and most of the jonin. The only ones he was not so sure about were the elite jonin, the Umbu, and of course the Hokage. He was just 12 after all, and while he was strong and had more physical power than all other kids his age, including the boy that imitated Gai Mato, the best taijutsu master of the village, he was limited in what his body could take. He had the advantage that the Kyuubi healed his injuries overnight, which included his muscles that tore from training. Over the last year he had prepared massively for his chances to get out of the village on missions. It was the last year he would be a civilian. He had played with the idea to graduate early, but his chances were better with his age group. Being the son of the Yondaime Hokage, he would have to be able to defend himself against enemies of his father that could recognize him. After some time he had come to the conclusion that that probably was the reason for the lies of the Hokage. The old man always tried to protect him, but didn't have that much success. The civilian council had too much political power for the old man to control all parts of the village life. And before he wasn't a ninja, he wouldn't be under the Hokage's power. While the Hokage as his official guardian was always included in his punishments for the pranks, mostly the civilian council tried to screw him over there again. And with the ninja part of the council being mostly neglecting him, there was no chance for him to get back at the civilian council right now. Thankfully the graduation exams were in 2 days. Then he would finally get out of the academy, get a Jonin sensei, and could start to show his abilities. Well, depending on the Jonin, but he normally could trust the old man to not set him up with another demon hater. There were some Jonin that would at least treat him neutrally. He left the room and turned off the lights. He took the lit lantern and walked up to the entrance. There was a spy hole in the wall to let him check if there were any people outside, but normally the narrow alley was empty. There were after all no house entrances in the alley and it was too narrow to really store things. A few trash cans were at one end, but that was it. He opened the wall and stepped out. He was wearing the orange abomination that the only shop owner that had even sold him clothes had thought appropriate clothes for him. Of course he had been overcharged, but the next night he had taken the things he had paid for with the money that had been demanded from him illegally. He always did this. If one shop owner overcharged him or kicked him out, he took what the shop owner owed him or pranked the shop that kicked him out. Of course nobody knew about his compensation. The council would have a field day. But as nobody could prove anything and they never found any of the stolen things in his possession, they had no case and the Hokage had refused to let them punish him without proof. Since the day he had learned shadow clones, he had sent a shadow clone to pretend to train on a training ground every day. His clone pretended to really suck but to never give up. The only true thing about his personality he showed the village was the never give up attitude. Everything else was faked. Naruto reached the academy and sat down in the back of the room, laying his head on the table and trying to get a bit more sleep. Nobody would really mind it. The only teacher that tried to get him to pay attention was Iruka Umino. Naruto knew that Iruka also disliked him for the fox, but the Chunin was at least professional enough to not let it influence his work. For that attitude alone Naruto respected Iruka. He didn't like him, but he respected him. Naruto woke up again when the class's top Uchiha fangirls, Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka had their daily loud entry. Really, all that effort for an emo whose only ambition in life was to kill Itachi. And the bastard wasn't even that strong. Sure, for an academy student he was strong, but with all the help he had been offered by several ninja in the village he should already be Chunin by now. He could have graduated 2 years ago if he had chosen so, but he didn't. Naruto knew that Sasuke wasn't as good a ninja as his older brother had been and would never be. Itachi was a rare genius. Smart and powerful. It didn't happen often that those two traits came together in somebody as young as Itachi had been when he graduated. Genin with 7, Chunin with 10, Jonin with 12 and Umbu Captain with 13. That was an impressive record. Sasuke was too obsessed with revenge to reach his full potential, his hatred of Itachi was holding him back. While he trained a lot, he focused on the things his clan had taught him before they were all killed. Which meant, he had a solid understanding of the Uchiha Taijutsu style, which depended on the Sharingan, which Sasuke didn't have activated yet. He also knew a C-rank fire jutsu, the Great Fireball Jutsu which Naruto knew the Uchihas had really liked using, when they could get away with it also on him. Sasuke was top in his academics, the basic 3 ninjutsu taught at the academy and with his thrown weapons. But the whole talking about beating Itachi one day lacked his skills in anything outside that knowledge and skill. He didn't know Genjutsu, which even Naruto after thousands of collective hours of chakra control training, that had become so much easier with shadow clones, had been able to learn, didn't have a weapon besides the standard kunao and shuriken he had learned to use in combat. Naruto had chosen to follow the Sandame's example and learn to use a bow staff and also knew how to use a tanto as a backup weapon. He knew nothing about seals, a skill Naruto in the ambition to follow in his parents' footsteps had mastered by now, and his usage of other tools was lacking massively. No, while Sasuke was skilled for a normal ninja of his age he was far from a genius. That title was given away way too easy nowadays. The Hyuga genius Neji of last year, Sasuke of this year, and probably the other years had also had a genius in them. Naruto hadn't really cared about it. Now the two cat-fighting girls tried to solve the matter who would be allowed to sit next to their crush. What else was new? If they would have looked they would have noticed that there were 2 seats next to the bastard. And said Emo didn't even give them any attention. He just brooded as always. Finally Iruka arrived and sent both girls to seats away from Sasuke and started with repetition for the exams. Naruto would do what was necessary to pass the test, but not much more. He wanted to score low to be put on the same team as Sasuke, the only one that would be guaranteed to be passed. There was simply no way that the precious Uchiha would be allowed to fail his true Genin exam. And to keep him happy he would be assigned a strong Jonin that could teach him a lot. Well, with Naruto's perfected espionage skills he would get the same advantages once he got the team to pass. He knew a bit about the Jonins that normally took on teams. To pass a test he would only have to know which one he got as a sensei and act accordingly. He even knew what Kakashi Hatake, the strange Jonin he had copied the Shadow Clone Jutsu from, wanted from his teams. The man was a great believer in teamwork. Not that hard to achieve, if he got the Emo to cooperate to pass. The jutsu they were repeating today was the transformation. Well, Naruto had his own version which he used to embarrass Iruka. The sexy jutsu. A real transformation contrary to the normal illusion. Not that anybody knew about this difference. Naruto had created that jutsu to distract pursuers and knock them out. He swore the village was made of over 95% perverts. Iruka was blown back by a giant nosebleed. Naruto then took the safe option and fled the classroom where nearly all the girls wanted to castrate him for using such a jutsu in their presence. He went to Ichiraku's and ordered 7 bowls of ramen. While it was part of his mask, Naruto really liked the ramen at Ichiraku's. He disliked the packed ramen that the stores sold. He just had had too much of it when he was younger. It was the only food he could afford and cook with his limited skills. The ramen at Ichiraku's were better and healthier. He got some of the meat, fish, and vegetables his body needed from here. While there was a lot of salt in the broth, with the Kyuubi's chakra helping keeping him healthy, there was not much to fear. He had started hunting and fishing 2 months after finding the secret room, which gave the fox more nutrients to work with. His vegetable field then added to his diet once his efforts to grow vegetables bore fruit. Naruto learned how to live off the land. With the mild climate in Fire Country he didn't have to fear about massively cold weather that would make it impossible to grow things. He also collected nuts and fruits from the trees and bushes in the forest to add to his diet. It showed in him finally having a growth spurt. When he had started at the academy he had been one of the smallest children in class. Once he turned 9 he was one of the tallest. Understandable when he saw the pictures of his father. Minato Namikaze had been tall. While getting fresh milk and eggs had been a bit of a problem in the beginning, once he had mastered the transformation jutsu that problem had been solved. He went to buy the things he needed and couldn't hunt or grow in disguise and got them without a problem. He didn't buy everything he needed because he didn't want to give the people that hated him his money. He could do better things with them, like waiting for the merchant caravan that came to Konoha twice a year and buy the things he wanted from them. He had bought his new outfit, one that he would use once he became a ninja, during their last visit. In 1 week and 2 days, the day when the teams were assigned he would present it the first time. Finally it was the day of the graduation exams. Naruto answered just enough questions correctly to pass this part and not get in trouble if he didn't do too well on the ninjutsu part. He didn't know how the teachers would take his clone jutsu. Weapon throwing and taijutsu he did average in. It was okay for him to beat a student from a civilian family with his street brawler style. He wouldn't reveal that he was proficient in both the Uzumaki and the Namikaze taijutsu styles. That would wait until he was sure nobody could screw him over anymore. Then it was time for the last part. Iruka announced that they would have to show the clone jutsu. Naruto sighed. This was definitely another attempt of the council to screw him over. It was well known that he was lousy at this jutsu. But with all his control training he would be able to deceive them. He went into the room where Iruka and Mizuki were waiting to test him on the jutsu. Naruto, who wanted to graduate, concentrated hard to reduce the amount of chakra he used to the least possible amount he could manage. Clone jutsu. He shouted and a cloud of smoke appeared. When the smoke cleared, there were 20 Narutos that could just be called proper clones. The coloration was a little bit too weak, but they were workable clones. Naruto breathed out in relief. Iruka would accept this, even if it wasn't perfect. Well, that's a surprise, Naruto. There was no need to make so many clones. Iruka said, surprised that Naruto had managed to do the jutsu. He had never got it down before. Well, Iruka-sensei, I trained really hard for this jutsu and somehow this is the least possible amount of clones I can make and it is still really hard. Naruto said, rubbing his head embarrassedly. Damn that demon brat. This is an acceptable result. Iruka will pass him now and I can forget my plan to use him to steal the scroll. I was sure he would fail. Mizuki mentally ranted. You definitely improved a lot. You pass, Naruto, even if you should still continue to work on this jutsu until you can make your clones perfect. They need a little bit more color. Iruka commented and held out a headband. Will do, Iruka-sensei, thanks. Naruto said, not even faking his happiness for graduating. Chapter 2, Secrets Revealed. During the night Naruto was out to see if some stupid clan had thrown away old scrolls again. Really, for all the talks about keeping clan jutsus a secret, they were pretty lax with the scrolls that had their secret jutsu and sometimes training techniques in them. Whenever the scrolls got too old to be used anymore, the clans had somebody copy the content of the scrolls and then threw away the old ones. Instead of burning them directly, they threw them into the trash. Naruto, ever the opportunist, regularly searched the trash cans the day before the trash was collected and destroyed. That was the day the clans threw away those scrolls. Over the years since he had started to do this to even out the advantage the clan ninjas had on him, he had collected quite a lot of scrolls. Naruto now knew perfectly how to fight members of all clans in Konoha. He even could use the gentle fist. It was fairly easy with his vast knowledge of anatomy. While he couldn't see the chakra network without the Byakugan, a chakra strike to a vital organ or a muscle was still fatal for an opponent. And it added to his unpredictable taijutsu. After all, nobody would expect a non-Hyuga to know gentle fist. But before he could do his little raid, he got suspicious of a figure that left the Hokage Tower with a big scroll on his back. He decided to investigate. He made a shadow clone to continue his trash raid. There was no reason to not do both after all. He stayed in the shadows, his chakra suppressed to not alert the man he followed to his presence. Once he reached a clearing in the forest, the man stopped to gather his breath. That went well. It would have been better if I could have blamed the demon brat, but with the brat passing the exams that plan got blown up. He mumbled. Naruto recognized the voice as the one of Mizuki, his teacher at the academy. So he had planned to trick him into stealing the scroll he had with him. It had to be important that he would risk the theft from the Hokage Tower. Naruto sneaked closer and positioned himself over Mizuki, ready to take him out. While Naruto was tailing Mizuki, the Hokage noticed that the forbidden scroll had been stolen and raised the alarm. Many were accusing Naruto, but Nambu informed them that Naruto was sleeping in his bed at home. The Hokage sent his ninja out to find the thief and bring back the scroll. Iruka, who had taken to search in the forest west of Konoha, was really surprised to find Mizuki with the scroll. Never would he have thought his old friend would do something like this. Iruka didn't notice Naruto in the tree. "Mizuki, what are you doing?" he shouted enraged. "Oh, look who found me, Iruka. What does it look like? I am taking the scroll to become more powerful than I could ever become in this shitty village. Once I have learned the jutsus in it, I will be invincible. Nobody will be able to stop me and I will then sell it to the highest bidder," he said. "Sadly I can't have you tell my little secret, so you sadly have to die." Mizuki attacked Iruka with a windmill shuriken, which Iruka managed to dodge. The two started on taijutsu, where Iruka was definitely at a disadvantage. "Oh, didn't the good little teacher keep up with his taijutsu training well enough? Mizuki mocked Iruka when he kicked him in the ribs and against a tree. Then he threw the next windmill shuriken at Iruka, who couldn't get up fast enough. But before the shuriken could hit, it was intercepted by a dark figure. Naruto had seen and heard enough to decide he wanted to thwart Mizuki's plans. And with his disguise there was no risk of being identified. Mizuki was shocked to see his attack didn't hit. "Who the hell are you? What do you want?" he yelled at Naruto. "I hate traitors with a passion. That's all," Naruto said and threw the windmill shuriken he had caught before it could hit Iruka back at Mizuki with a lot more speed than it had before. Mizuki dodged the weapon. "Ha, you missed," he mocked, only to be hit from behind and feel the pain from being pierced by his own weapon. "No, I didn't," Naruto calmly said, holding the end of a thread of ninja wire in his hand, which he had quickly tied to the windmill shuriken and therefore been able to pull the weapon back on a new course. He took out a senbon covered in a paralyzing poison and hit Mizuki in the neck with it. He passed out soon after from the blood loss. Iruka managed to get up, only holding his side a bit. "Thank you for the help," he said. "You saved my life." "You're welcome. I think it would be best to get the scroll back to the Hokage." "Can you walk on your own?" Naruto asked. "Yes, I think so. Only a few bruises, nothing serious," he said. "By the way, who are you? I don't think I have seen you in the village before." "That's a secret. If you want to have a name, you can call me Dark Phoenix. That's my code name," Naruto said. He had decided long ago that he would use that code name if he ever was seen. It was his best shot to be left alone if nobody knew what he could do. Dark Phoenix would be thought of as a secret operative of the Hokage and nobody would make the connection to Naruto Uzumaki, the demon brat. "Oh, I understand," Iruka said. In a ninja village, people with code names were nothing special. Hell, the Umbu only operated that way. While Dark Phoenix seemed to be really young, there had been others that strong at his age. Naruto bound Mizuki with wire and asked Iruka if he could carry him as he had the height advantage. They walked back to the village, not being in a hurry after the culprit was caught and knocked out. And it would be easier on Iruka's bruises. Iruka was carrying Mizuki's knocked out body and Naruto had the scroll. When Iruka was briefly looking in another direction, Naruto quickly switched places with a previously made shadow clone. There was no chance he would pass the opportunity to copy the jutsus from the scroll. It wouldn't take long. Because of his sealing training, Naruto could write really fast. Just when they were getting to the edge of the forest, Naruto switched back. Nobody would ever know that he now had the forbidden jutsus of the village. The Hokage was really surprised to see an unknown ninja and Iruka Umino bringing back the scroll and having a knocked out and bound Mizuki Toji with them. The masked ninja walked over to him and handed him the forbidden scroll back. Then Iruka started to tell what had happened. "Hokage-sama, I caught up with the thief, Mizuki, in the West Forest, and after he told me he had stolen the scroll to learn the forbidden jutsus and sell the scroll to the highest bidder, once he had done that I attacked him. Over the fight Mizuki managed to beat me in taijutsu and I was kicked back into a tree. Mizuki didn't waste time to throw another windmill shuriken at me while I was down. I was sure that that would be my end when Dark Phoenix appeared and intercepted the windmill shuriken Mizuki threw at me. He then threw the windmill shuriken back at Mizuki, but he dodged. Mizuki gloated about having been missed, but Dark Phoenix had tied ninja wire to the shuriken and pulled it back where it hit Mizuki in the back. After that he was knocked out by a senbon that was obviously covered in some poison. He bound him with more ninja wire and we came back here," Iruka reported. The Hokage was confused. He didn't have a ninja that went by the code name Dark Phoenix. But the boy was obviously strong and on their side. The scroll he had been given back was the original. So the boy didn't intend to steal it. Curious. He would have to ask the boy once they were alone. Thank you for the report and bringing back the Forbidden Scroll, Irika. That was good work. I think it would be best if you went to the hospital and let them check you if there was anything worse than bruises done. I need you ready for duty. The Hokage said. Irika bowed and left the room. The Hokage now turned his look to the boy. I would really like to know who you are. I don't know any ninja in my ranks with the codename Dark Phoenix. The Hokage said sternly. If you would send your guards out of the room, Hokage-sama, I will tell you. I don't want my identity be known to anybody but you. Naruto said politely. Why would I send my guards out for this if you could try to attack me? The Hokage asked. I may be strong, but I am sure you could take me out without problem, Hokage-sama. The only thing I require is a bit of privacy as I am about to reveal 2S rank secrets of the village. Naruto said. The Hokage concentrated his senses on the boy. He felt his chakra being suppressed, so there was no way to get any clues about the boy's identity. What kind of village secrets could the boy know? Well, if he wanted to find out, he would have to take the risk. It was really small after all. He didn't become Hokage while being weak. He gave his guards the sign to leave the office. Once they were out of the office, he activated the privacy seals. So, now we are completely undisturbed. Now tell me who you are. He ordered. Naruto raised his hands slowly to not have the old man attack him and pulled down his lower face mask and his hood. My name is Naruto Namikaze, 3rd Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. He said seriously. To say the Hokage was shocked was an understatement. He had never even suspected that Naruto could know about those two things. Naruto? Is that really you? He asked. Yes, old man. And if I hadn't figured out by now that having me use my dad's name would have got his enemies after me, I would be really pissed with you for lying to me whenever I asked one or both of the two questions I had all my life. Who my parents were and why the villagers all hate me. Naruto stated while clearly showing his displeasure to the Hokage. How do you know that? Who told you? The Hokage asked, furious that somebody would have broken his law. Well, I found out about the fox shortly before the Uchiha massacre. If I see Itachi, I will have to thank him for getting rid of my most brutal tormentors. They once caught me and beat me up in a lonely alley. When they left me there bloody and probably thinking that I was unconscious, they talked about how I deserved that because I was the Kyuubi container and should just die. They only didn't kill me directly because you would have found out and taken measures. About my parents I found out when I had to clean your storage room after that prank against the grocer in the north part of the village. I accidentally spilled blood on the seal that was keeping the box with the kanji for 4th on it closed. I looked into the box after the seal opened and found my parents' marriage certificate and my birth certificate. I found out about the location of their house and went there. Well, you can guess the rest of the information I told you, like that I am the 3rd Jinchuriki for the fox when I say that I found both their diaries. Naruto explained. The Hokage looked sad. He hadn't wanted to burden Naruto with the knowledge of the fox at such a young age. You said you figured out my reason for keeping your heritage a secret. How comes you didn't do better at the academy then? From the reports I got, you just passed the exams. Congratulations for that, by the way. The Hokage wanted to know. Thanks, but think about it. What do the villagers fear more? A stupid and weak demon or a smart and powerful one? It was simply self-preservation. I am way stronger and smarter than everybody thinks. Naruto said. How strong? The Hokage asked. And how did you manage to keep all the training? You must have done a secret. I only saw you training sometimes in the training grounds and then you didn't give the impression of being strong. That was my shadow clone, old man. I learned that jutsu by watching Kakashi Hatake test his team when I was 9. He had them fight against his clone in the true Genin test. I had memorized the hand seal and tried to learn that jutsu as it looked really useful, way better than the clone we learn at the academy, which I still have problems with even after thousands of hours of chakra control training. Naruto admitted. That damn jutsu just uses too little chakra. You can do shadow clone jutsu? You know that it is a forbidden jutsu? He asked. No, I didn't until now. I never had any problems except in the beginning when I dispelled too many clones after training at once. That was a terrible headache I got. You use your clones for training? The Hokage asked interested. Sure. It's the best training method there is. At least for me. I can make 1,000 clones without ending winded. And with the memory transfer after they dispel, they were perfect for me to gain skills, experience, and knowledge. Naruto said, shrugging his shoulders. But why didn't you tell me? The Hokage asked. I couldn't. If the council had any idea that I was getting strong on my own, they would have tried to stop me. I needed all the time I could get strong enough to just flip them the bird once I graduated. You know how they treat me. If I had shown my true skills I would have been able to graduate earlier, that much I know you'd have done for me, but what then? A genin still isn't strong enough to be safe from a bunch of determined civilians, especially not if the council would try to make everything I did look like the fox did it. And there would have been the possibility of a jonin just failing the team I was on under the pretense of us not having the necessary skills. Then it would have been back to the academy, under the control of the civilian council. And then they would have known that I was stronger than they allowed me to become and would have sabotaged me more. No, I needed to have at least high-level chunin skills to be sure to pass the real genin test for sure, or you then having a reason to keep me in the active duty roster even if the jonin on my team failed me out of hatred for the fox. While I haven't been beaten up since the Uchiha massacre, the civilians do all they can to screw me over. Shops overcharge me or just deny me service, parents tell lies about me to their children, teachers sabotage my education, and the hospital staff only treats me if you force them to. Hell, the only place I can go to eat is Ichiraku's. And I can't live from ramen alone, even if I pretended to do so. Thankfully I don't get the food a clone eats. Alone thinking about eating so much ramen makes me sick. I hate cup ramen, by the way. I only like the ramen at Ichiraku's. Do you really wonder that I couldn't trust anybody until I was out of the influence of the civilian council? Now that I have graduated and am a ninja, I am under your jurisdiction and you are one of the few people that don't hate me. Naruto explained. The Hokage understood. He had tried to help Naruto, but he was right. With the council having stolen much of the Hokage's power in the short time between Minato's death and his reinstallation, there wasn't much he could have done for the boy without being accused of favoritism and pushed out of the position of Hokage, leaving Naruto without protection. When Naruto had been found next to the bodies of his dead mother and dying father, Minato had only managed to get his final wish out that Naruto should be treated like the hero he was for keeping the fox imprisoned. He hadn't told the villagers about Naruto's status, but it had somehow got out. His law came too late and the villagers were shouting for Naruto's death. You said you know about the true genin test? The Hokage asked, looking over his intertwined hands. Yes, my knowledge was also part of the reason I got results to just pass, at the bottom of my class. The only genin to be that is guaranteed to pass is Sasuke. The council will never allow for their precious last Uchiha to fail and order whoever will be his Jonin sensei to pass his team. That is the only possibility for me to surely pass. I know that Ino, Shikamaru, and Koji will be put on a team as the three clans have had a bond over generations and are always on the same team if three of them are in the same graduation class. The next clan heirs are Hinata, Kiba and Shino. A classical tracking team. Therefore they would normally be put in one team. Those 6 are the only ones in my class that also have the skill to pass the Genin test for sure if they get fair senseis. So if I wanted to truly get out of the civilian council's jurisdiction, I needed to get on a team that was sure to pass, aka Sasuke's team. I hate the bastard, but I can push my feelings aside if it means you are the only one who can give me orders. To be honest, if I hadn't been sure that I would have been hunted down and brought back by the Umbu, I would have run away years ago. While I like you, with the whole village hating me, that was not a difficult decision. The Hokage seriously needed to make plans to get Naruto to stay in the village even after he would one day die. He was an old man. He knew that he would probably die before Naruto turned 18. He could understand the boy. He really could. But it was also important for the village to keep the Kyuubi there. And Naruto with his heritage shouldn't even think about leaving the village. This was all so screwed up. He had hoped that once the immediate grief for the fallen was over that people would get back to common sense. Sadly, the civilian council never accepted it. I see. As you know your heritage, what do you intend to do? He asked. I will keep it secret until the next Chunin exams. By the way, why did Konoha get to host them 2 times in a row? Naruto asked. That question had bothered him for a while. I won't ask how you know that they had been in Konoha last time and will be next time in 6 months. We would normally only have hosted the next exams. It was Kusa's turn originally, but their village couldn't get the premises ready in time and then their leader fell ill. So they asked Konoha to take over as we have the possibilities to organize them quickly. The Hokage answered. Ah, I see. That makes sense. And even if you didn't ask, I will answer how I knew. I just noticed all the foreign shinobi in the village. The only reason for that amount was that we hosted the Chunin exams. Naruto explained. The Hokage nodded. That was logical. I have a request, by the way. Can you make sure that my team is assigned a sensei that isn't a demon hater? To ask for someone that likes me would be too much to ask, but having at least a sensei that would treat me neutrally would be a huge improvement to the teachers at the academy. With the exception of Iruka sensei. While I know he doesn't like me, he was professional about things and taught me the same like everybody else. I can live with that. Naruto asked. I will see what I can do. What I would like to know how you came up with the codename Dark Phoenix. The Hokage asked. Well, a phoenix is a mythical bird that doesn't really die, but is always reborn from the ashes. Phoenixes are associated with the light and pureness. A dark phoenix also is reborn from the ashes when it dies, but it is not the same bird. It is more like a reincarnation instead of the rebirth of the same bird with the same character. I can't be pure, the village made sure of it, but I will not just die. I will rise from the ashes again and nothing they throw at me will keep me down. Naruto stated. The Hokage nodded. I think we still didn't settle the matter of your level of strength. What do you think where you would rank? The Hokage asked. Low to middle Jonin level on a pure skill level. I only miss the body for taking on high level Jonin. That will have to wait until I get older. I have seen pictures of Dad. I should normally get a similar stature like him when I grow up. Naruto replied. Are you sure about that? The Hokage asked shocked. Yes, I have a repertoire of over 100 ninjutsu, 10 genjutsu, which were a pain in the ass to learn by the way, damned fox messing with my control, am proficient in both my clan's taijutsu styles, I can use a bow staff and a tanto really well and know how to use most weapons at least a bit if I ever need to. I am a fuinjutsu master and a poisons and anatomy expert. I guess that should be more than enough to qualify for Jonin level strength. The only thing I lack is experience. That's why I said I was low to middle Jonin level on pure skill levels. I wouldn't last in a real fight Ajinasta Jonin yet if my opponent didn't massively underestimated me. I couldn't do any missions after all or I would have been discovered. Naruto listed. Fuinjutsu Master. I guess I shouldn't be surprised considering that both your parents were masters in Fuinjutsu and it was the specialty of the Uzumaki clan before they were killed in the Third War. I would like to test your skill level though. Probably the best way to do it would be if you fought against one of my Jonin in your disguise. He pondered. That would be okay, but I only want to reveal my skills to the whole village during the Chunin exams. I want them to see who they treated like shit. With all the nobles and important clients present, they can't risk being seen as the scum they are. Naruto stated. Okay, be at Training Ground 61 tomorrow morning at 10. I will be there with the Jonin I have in mind to test your skills. The Hokage said, more than a little bit worried about the obvious loathing Naruto held for the majority of Konoha. Okay, old man, good night. Naruto said and put his mask and hood back on. Good night, Naruto, and this was really good work. You will be paid for your help in catching Mizuki. The Hokage added. Thanks, I can use the money. Naruto said and left the office. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.